I want to give all honor and all praise to the Most High, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, Barakatham, peace and blessing to the 12, and greetings, right? I can't fight the way you fight. We are different, but believe the same, right? I can't fight the way you fight. We are different, but believe the same, right? Hey, we all believe the same. We got the same belief system. Nevertheless, we got different war methods on how to fight different battles, right? We got different war methods on how brothers and sisters fight different battles, fight different wars, man. You know what I'm saying? We learn how to have victories. We learn how to have victories out of these different battles. We learn how to have different victories out of these different wars that the Most High put us in, man. All right? The Most High told Satan, spiritual demon Satan, have you considered my servant Job? Right? Hey, what type of motivation when you hear something like that? When God, Yahweh himself, is motivated and confident enough to call out a specific individual that he's tougher than Satan and all his lies, tougher and stronger than all his temptation that the enemy try to give, to that individual. Job's name means hatred, persecuted. Hey, in these last days, the Most High says to these spiritual demons, Satan, to the spiritual demons all over this earth, man. He's telling every spiritual satanic operation, have you considered my servant Israel? Right? Have you considered my servant Israel? Right? He's challenging all the powers that never be. He's challenging all the governments that never was, right? That is today, that won't be tomorrow. He's challenging, and what he's saying, have you considered my servant Israel, Yasharallah, right? And because of that, we got a lot of battles. We got a battle in the mind. We got a battle in our spirits, right? The spirit against the flesh wars against the spirit, right? The battle of the mind, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities in high places. We're going to touch on that. So we got to find a perfect model to follow that knows about war, knows a perfect role model, a warlike figure that we can look up to, character in the Bible we can look up to in order to learn how to fight these battles in the spirit realm and battles in the physical, man. And who we're going to pick out today? Let's pick out King David. Right? Because King David was a man of war and he was a man of worship at the same time, man. Right? Which sounds like an oxymoron sometimes. How can you be a man of war, which is a man of war is a man who keeps guard, who stay in the lookout, right? He's never opened up. But when you worshiping, you fully opened up. Right? When you worshiping, you unarmed. But when you a war man, you fully armed, right? You're fully in tune of the physical warfare that is approaching, right? But in the spirit, but when you're worshiping, it's an oxymoron. These are two opposites, but nevertheless, when you put those two combinations together, hey, it's a masterpiece, and that's what David learned, man. David learned a masterpiece, how to go to war with our physical enemies and how to worship Yahweh and go to war in the spirit. That's why he was a man after God's own heart. So we're going to follow this model, right? Let's get the book of Psalms let's get the book of 1 Samuel chapter 17. All right. And we're going to start at verse 37. David said, moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the palm of the lion and out of the palm of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said unto David, go, and the Lord be with thee. See, hey, so what was going on? Hey, there was a chaotic situation going on in the valley, right? The armies of the Philistines on one side, the nation of Israel on the other. The world and their armies on one side, the nation of Israel on the other in these last days. We doing parallels today, right? But David said, hey, David told his resume, man. David said, man, hey, look, I may look like a little youngster. I may look like a little kid in your eyes, but do not get it twisted, man. I am a man of faith, right? I am a man of faith. And because of that, he said, man, hey, I done laid out lions. I done laid out bears, man. Hey, we got a lot of lions and we got a lot of bears we fight that prepares you for the big event, right? Right? He was prepared for the big event. He had more confidence than all Israel in the day of battle. Why? Because he was prepared for the great event when he fought those little battles. Every little battle we fight today, every little small wars and victories we have today, hey, it's preparing us for the big battle, which is Jacob's trouble. That's the uncircumcised Philistine that's coming up, man. Right? Where we got different wars, World War III that we had to face. Right? We got little civil wars, race wars that's on this way. All these are little battles, but look, the lion and the bear, we fighting today, right? Going on the highways and byways, kicking up dust and fighting different demons, tumults, and different spirits that always want to attack you. Then you got to go home and might need a fight at home. Lord willing, you ain't. Lord willing, it's a home of peace. But sometimes, hey, even in a home of peace, the spiritual demon Satan will come in there and cause chaos, right? What do you do at that time, right? So we got to look at David as an example of how we're going to approach these battles and these wars that we go through every day. He says, the lion and the bear I slew, man, and the Most High delivered me out of all of them, right? So he gives the Most High honor and glory that the Lord delivered him out of these battles, even though he the one that slew them. He give all credit to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. So every battle we go through, every war we go through, we got to give credit to the true author and finisher of our faith, because he the one that ultimately delivered us out of it, even though he probably gave us the strength to fight these bears and fight these different entities, right? Let's keep reading though. He says, and David more so said, the Lord that delivered me out of the palm of the lion and out of the palm of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And said unto David, go. And Saul said unto David, go, and the Lord be with thee. There you go right there. He says, go, and the Lord be with thee. After you heard that, hey, David was a man of war even at his young age, man. He gave him his resume. Look, you know, I call some bodies, man. Don't get it twisted. Do not underestimate nobody in his truth, man. Right? You could be, hey, it could be an individual that look like he did. It could be an individual that looked like he put no work in, just to find out he was in the backwoods putting all the work in, man. Because what was David doing? He was shepherding and watching over the flock of his father, right? So he's learning. He's always learning. He said, I fought the lion and I fought the bear, right? And it probably looked insignificant just watching the sheep, right? He probably was like, oh, man, sometimes, man, why I'm doing this, man? Am I going to be doing this my whole life? Well, if I am, all praise Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. Let me get out of my head and go back to worship, right? He probably was doing that, man. Why? Because sometimes you can do some of the most insignificant stuff and you'll feel like you're not even in the purpose of the will of the Most High, man. Because we like action, man. A man like action. A man like action. And sometimes the Most High says, this ain't the season for action, but this is the season for isolation, right? So he had a season of isolation. Then he had a season of action. And guess what? The isolation season was preparing him for the season of action, right? And that's what we're looking at. The lion and the bear, man, right? To show how much love he had for his sheep, right? He could have let the lion just take the sheep and he just go ahead and go on his way and say, oh, man, it is what it is, right? Hey, that is what it is, spirit, you know? But nah, he said, nah, I'm going to hunt this devil down because he got something that's valuable to me. And that's why the Lord looks at his men when he talk about taking care of God's sheep in First Peter's, hey, you gotta think about it. Peter was a man that the Most High said that you gonna deny me, or Yahweh Shah said you gonna deny me 3 times, and he did. Nevertheless, he got restored, man. So he dropped his towel for a little bit, went back to his occupation, and said, forget the whole thing, man. But guess what? Lord brought him back into the fold, man. And what'd he do? He said, feed my sheep. Feed the flock of God's sheep. All right? Feed the flock of God's sheep. And whatever comes in the midst of that, fight it until the end, right? Even if it might take your life, you fight for your sheep. He told them 3 times to restore them because he denied them 3 times, right? Talking about Peter, right? But let's stick on the warrior, King David. He gives his resume. He says, like I said, he killed a lion and the bear, man. He killed a lion and the bear. You remember that movie, Karate Kid? Hey, Karate Kid, I'm talking about the original Karate Kid, right? Wax on, wax off, right? The original Karate Kid, that the individual that played the main character, he kept getting punked by these karate professionals, man. These young punks. These young punks, right? They kept beating him down. They kept tearing him down. You know, he kept running to the point he got tired of running, man. Hey, sometimes you get tired of running in your life. When you get tired of running, and I'm talking about the lost Jakes. I'm talking about Jakes. When I say Jacob, the children of Jacob, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, I'm talking about you, Jake. Lost Jake today. It's going to get a time where you're going to get tired of running. And when you get tired of running, you're going to have to meet your match. And your match is meeting Yahweh Shai, man. And guess what? He's unmatchable. You can't box with Yahweh Shai, man, but he going to box with you. He going to break you down. He going to make you repent once you say, I do. You know what I'm saying? Look at this. Why? Because he demands you to change. That's why. All right? So the lion and the bear. Let's think about this. The lion and the bear. So on that movie, he kept getting punked. He got tired of running. He got tired of getting beat up. He got tired of running. He got tired of getting beat up. Right? Hey, most of us in the truth came to the truth because we got tired of running and we got tired of getting beat up, man. We got tired of running and we got tired of getting beat up, man. Point blank, period. All right? Nevertheless, the lion and the bear. The Karate Kid said, you know what? Let me find let me find somebody that knows this same war method. Because I can't fight like this, like these men can, right? I can't fight like these men can. And matter of fact, that's the topic today. Today's topic is, I can't fight the way you fight. We are different, but believe the same, man. All right, let's break this thing down. So on that movie, in the Karate Kid, he meet a master of karate, man. He meet a master of karate, not in the organization of the karate, you know, practice, not in the organization, but in the backwoods somewhere, man, in his house. And it was funny because he was so ready to fight. He was like, okay, what we gonna do first? He was telling his trainer, what we gonna do first? And what did the master tell him? He says, hold on. He grabbed 2 paint buckets, right? He grabbed 2 paint buckets. Told him to come to his backyard. He sent him to his backyard. And what did he do? After he sent him to his backyard, he gave him a paintbrush and says, try to show him it's okay. Paint this one fence. And he said, what? He said, man, I ain't here to work. I'm here to fight. I'm here to learn how to fight. He said, paint this fence and do it clockwards, counterclockwise, up and down, counterclockwise, right? And then what happened? He said, I'll be back. Hey, that looks insignificant, man. That looks totally insignificant. What the hell I'm doing over here working when I'm supposed to be practicing how to do karate so I can defend myself from these men who keep beating me up, and I'm tired of running. Nevertheless, he did it anyways. And he did it all day up until the night. all day up until the night for a whole week, all day up until night to at least three weeks. Then he got fed up, and he pulled his brush down. He knocked his brush down. He said, "Man, I'm sick of this, man." He said, "I came here to learn how to fight." And then the master turned around at him and said, "You want to learn how to fight?" Then he told him, "Well, let's fight." And he tried to show him his moves. He says, "Wax on." Right? This is when he was doing, this is when he had to wash his car. He showed him wax on. He showed him wax off. In other words, the whole time he was working, he was really practicing on how to fight, man. The whole time when he was learning, or the whole time he was working and it felt so insignificant, the whole time he was learning purpose on how to fight and how to defend himself, man. Because the same work was the practice of the fight. The same work today is the practice of the fight, man. Right? Let's keep rich. And what does that represent? The lion and the bear, man. The practice before the true event crack off, right? Let's keep pushing up. He says, this is 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 38. And Saul armed David with his armor, and he put a helmet of brass upon his head. Also, he armed him with the coat of mail. Now look at this. So Saul put all his armor that he fight with on David. The royal helmets, right? The royal shields. You know what I'm saying? The heavy metal chest plate. Right? And he was fully armed and probably looked like a royal king just because he had it on. But look what David said. Verse 39. And David girded his sword upon his arm. And David girded his sword upon his armor, and he essayed to go, for he had not proved it. And he says, "Man, I haven't even tried this stuff on yet, man. I don't know how to move in this stuff," right? And David said unto Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not proved them. And David put them off. So David said, "Look, man, the old traditional way of the way you fight, I can't fight like that, man." Right? This is why the Lord always raise up young men to do his will and do his biddings, man. He'll raise up the foolish things of the earth to do his will and do his biddings. That's what the Lord do, right? And that's exactly what he's doing today. He raising up young men that's totally contrary and totally opposite to the old traditional way of what the so-called religious world try to give them, man. And he says, "Come out of her, my people." We came out of that, and we got a whole different way of method by the elders of the truth on down to the young men. All praise to the Most High, man. Right? He says, "I can't try this on, man. I can't try this on. I fight a different way. I can't fight the way you fight," which is the topic. And that goes three different ways. That goes in the way of religion, that goes in the way of battle, but also goes in the way of us in the truth. Everybody in the truth can't fight the same way, man. But we believe the same way, right? The same doctrine. Nevertheless, we all got different methods on how to fight, right? I can't fight the way you fight. We are different, but believe the same. God, all praise Yahweh B'Shem Yahshua. So let's see David's method of fighting. 40. And he took his staff in his hand and chose 5 smooth stones out of the brook. You see that? He took 5 smooth stones out of the brook and he put it in a shepherd bag, which he had even in the scrap, and his sling, which was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine. What type of war method is that? He got a slingshot and 5 smooth rocks. That's all he got on his name. But you got damn Goliath, who got all different war. And this man was born a warrior, man. He done dealt with warrior scars, man. He done probably got scars all over his back, right? He know the smell of blood. It's nothing to him. But nevertheless, here come David with stuff that has nothing to do with war. Has nothing to do with war. And that's how the Most High works, man. This is why the Lord says he chosen the foolish things of the world to put to shame the things that are wise, right? It's just like Yahushua himself. Let's bring that out real quick. Yahushua himself. It was a method of war that looks very insignificant. It looked like it wasn't part of a war. The tools that Yahushua used to defeat our enemies, the grave, death, and sin, which is the breaking of the commandments, right? He didn't use it the way you would have thought he used it. Let's see how he used it. Let's see how everybody looked at Yahushua, right? Let's get 1 Corinthians chapter 1, and we're going to go straight down to the point. Cant, verse 21. For after that, in the wisdom of God, the world by wisdom knew not God. It pleased God by the foolishness of preaching to save them that believe, right? To save them that believe. He says, because the foolishness of God is wiser than man. So what is the wisdom? He says the foolishness. What is the foolishness of God? What was the foolishness of God? The foolishness of God was, the foolishness of God was Yahushua coming to redeem his people, right? That was the foolishness of God, right? Because he came the way he came, unexpected. He came like as a carpenter, you know, no royalty, no power. He just came to die. That's foolishness. But the foolishness of God is, he says, Salaki. He says, because the foolishness of God is wiser than man, right? So even though it looked off to the eyes of man, it was the wisdom of God, man. He can make something look so foolish, but it's a bomb threat. It's a weapon of mass destruction, right? He says, because the foolishness of God is wiser than man, and the weakness of God is stronger than man. What is the weakness of God? Yahushua dying on the cross, man. What did our own people say when they see him in that weak state? He said, man, if you the son of God, go call Elijah, right? Go call Elijah. What did the man, or what did Yahushua tell Peter after he slew the man's ear off for trying to touch Yahushua? He said, man, hey, man, put your sword back in your sheath. Do you not know that I can send 12 legions of angels? But he didn't chose that power, man. He chose what? He chose the weakness of God. Why? Because the weakness of God says, not my will, but your will be done. And he died weakly on the cross. But it was power in it. It was strength, right? It was strength, because after that, he broke everything that needed to be broken, man. That we can go back and return back to the heart of God, and the veil was ripped by Shema Mashiach Yahushua, right? So, but nevertheless, it's just like David. Nevertheless, it's just like David, right? And it's just like us, right? Our war methods are totally different towards each other and towards these different religions. Nevertheless, the Most High use them all, right? Some may have a slingshot and five smooth stones like David was. Others may have the shotgun, right? Others may have just the precepts. Whatever it is, we all fighting in these different wars and methods of war so we can find the victories, right? Let's keep going, though. We're going to finish. I'm going to do two more. Verse 45. Then said David to the Philistine, thou come to me with sword and with a spear and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the Yahweh of the armies of Israel, whom you have defiled. Look at that, man. He said, man, you come with me with all different battles of war. But what did David say? I come in the name of the Lord. And notice he pointed out every weapon that he had that was coming against him. Every weapon that was on Goliath, he put judgment on. He put judgment on. He pronounced judgment on the spear. He pronounced judgment on the sword. He pronounced judgment on the shield. He pronounced judgment on the helmets, man. Right? What he was doing, he's pronouncing judgment, man. He was already dead before he even touched him. Right? What the scripture says in the book of Romans. Let's get that real quick. Right? And this is how God look at things. So how Yahweh look at things, we look at things as well, man. Because we love what God love. We do what God do, right? He says, Romans chapter 4:17, as it is written, I have made thee a father of many nations before him whom he believed, even God who quickens the dead, right? Yahweh quickens the dead, and call those things which be not as though they were, right? So he's calling those things that were not as though they were, right? And that's what David did. He called those things that did not exist as though they existed, man. He pronounced judgment upon that man and upon his armor and upon his sword and upon his spear and upon all his armies. And guess what? He was dead before he pulled up, man. Look at this. Verse 48. And it came to pass when the Philistines arose and came and drew near to meet David, that David hastened and ran towards the army to meet the Philistine. Right? Hey, what does it mean when it says he ran towards? That means he didn't have time to think. He ran, man. He ran towards. He ain't got time to think. Hey, faith says you ain't got time to think sometimes, right? Discernment says you got time to think, but sometimes active faith means you ain't got time to think, man, because you might think your way out of it. Hey, David could have thought his way out of it, but he didn't. So he ran and he hasted towards them. Right? I ain't got time to think. I'm moving by faith and not by sight, man. And David put his hand in his bag and took hence a stone and slayed it and slew the Philistine in his forehead, that the stone sunk into his forehead and he fell upon his face to the earth. Look at that, man. David slew that stone that David had. The Holy Spirit powered that thing up to make it be like a bullet when it came towards his head. But it don't stop right there. Look at this. So David prevailed over the Philistines with a slay and with a stone, and smote the Philistine and slew him, but there was no sword in the hand of David. So he like, I ain't got no sword. Now I can use the method of war that y'all use. And guess what? I'm going to use the same sword you try to kill me with, that I put judgment on. I'm going to use it to take your head off. By Shema Mashiach, Yahweh Shai, and likewise today, man. Right? Look at this. Therefore, David ran and stood upon this Philistine and took his sword and drew it out of the shear thereof and slew him, cut off his head therewith. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled. Right? All those demons start to flee away when they see the power of the Israelites, Yasharallah, come into their true power, man. And that's the power that David had, we gonna have in these last days. The house of David, the 144,000 elect men that's gonna run to and from, picking up and destroying governments, man. And destroying mountains, which are governments, man. By Shema Mashiach Yahweh Shai. Right? And then what David do? Verse 53. And the children of Israel returned from chasing after the Philistines, and they spoiled their tents. And look at this. And David took the head of the Philistines and brought it to Jerusalem, but he put his armor in his tent. Look at that, man. He put all the armor that this man tried to come up against me with. He put that in his tent, and he went with that big old head and went into Jerusalem. Show the people. Now, what was the reason he went to Jerusalem? To show the people that he had Goliath head as he was a victor, man. He was the victor. What he try to show the people? He try to show the people how to get ahead in life, man. And the Most High is showing all of our people as we go forth in faith and in power. He's teaching them through us how to get ahead in life, man. How to get ahead in life. He walked into Jerusalem with the head of Goliath as a victor. Hey, David is the shadow, is the type shadow of Yahweh Shai when he returns, man. Right? Why? Because he gonna teach his people how to get ahead in life, man. He gonna teach his man how to be warriors again, how to be men of war again. He gonna teach us as he start to go to these four winds of the earth, causing chaos and causing war with these heathen nations. He's gonna be teaching us on the way on why he's doing this, man. He's gonna be teaching us why he's doing this. Cant. By Shema Mashiach Yahweh Shai. So with that, man, I'm gonna wrap it up. But like I said, the topic today is I can't fight the way you fight. We are different but believe the same. All right? So with that, I'm gonna give our honor and our praise to the mighty Yahweh by Shema Mashiach Yahweh Shai. Kwam Rashala.